Every great story has a time where the underdog has an opportunity to profit, to seize the money, and to finally get what they deserve. And then there's the more uncommon moment, the one that truly alters history, when they turn down the offer. That story is this one. Alex simply left the $300 million that was waiting for a signature on a table. You must return to the city where it all began, when courts had drooping nets and dreams were just a bit too big for the budget to support, in order to comprehend why she did it. The refined world of professional tennis was not Alex's birthplace. She didn't grow up in climate-controlled training facilities designed specifically for her, or with biomechanics instructors evaluating her footwork. She practiced amid the unrelenting humidity of Manila while growing up in Quezon City. Her family struggled to make ends meet so they could travel overseas to compete in events that the rest of the world took for granted. However, when she was just 8 years old, Globe Telecom noticed something about her. Just enough faith in a child with fire in her eyes to sustain the dream for a little while. Not millions, not some huge, ostentatious deal. And nobody at the time understood how important that was. Let's go on to 2022. With a calm ferocity that doesn't make an announcement, it just wins. 16-year-old Alex has been quietly tearing through junior circuits around Europe. She then achieves something that has never been done in Philippine sports history on the courts of the U.S. Open Girls Singles Tournament. She prevails. The first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles championship. And everything changed in an instant. People who had never given tennis a second thought were now glued to their TVs as basketball lovers in the Philippines talked about this lady from Quezon City who had just changed the record books. The headlines were all over the place, and the brands naturally began to circulate. While some arrived sincerely, others did so for other reasons. One company, let's call it Titan Sports, was a worldwide equipment powerhouse with a 70-year history and a billion-dollar valuation. They sent officials to Spain, where Alex was practicing at the Rafael Nadal Academy. They polished executives, practiced smiles, and performed the entire show. They discussed the future of the sport, common visions, and new cooperation potential. However, the truth was in plain sight when the documents were presented to Alex's family. $60,000 annually. They were providing a Grand Slam champion with it. An athlete whose face could sell millions of dollars worth of goods in Southeast Asia alone was given a 3-year equipment contract worth $180,000. Michael, Alex's father and a former collegiate athlete, attentively read it. Riza, her mother, who had participated in competitive swimming herself and was well versed in the definition of athletic exploitation, shook her head since there was far more worrying information hidden within those terms than just the low figure. Her image rights were sought after by Titan Sports. They wanted to give her social media approval. They desired to control her timetable. They offered her a small portion of what they regularly paid Western athletes with half of her accomplishments in order to position her as their diversity ambassador and their entry point into markets they hadn't been able to penetrate. Titan's tone quickly shifted when the family resisted and demanded to be treated with the same decency as any other champion. The glossy grins tightened. The discussion became more akin to a lecture. Comments were made regarding appreciation, reasonable expectations for a Filipino, and comprehension of the real workings of the market. The email then showed up 48 hours later. Cold as marble, professional language. After giving it some thought, we've made the decision to seek partnerships that are more in line with our current brand strategy, which, to use corporate jargon, meant precisely this. We thought you would accept anything we provided because you were so desperate. We're done here since you're not. Alex sobbed that evening. Not because of the money. Her family had survived without it and would do so in the future. She sobbed because, at 16, she realized something that she shouldn't have had to learn at such a young age. Not every door can be unlocked by that talent alone. That gatekeepers who have never participated in any sport determine an athlete's value in certain rooms within the sports industry. And they base that estimate on demographic statistics, predicted profits, and judgments about who should be regarded seriously rather than on awards, rankings, or potential. She didn't openly vent or post about it. She kept it to herself and allowed it to become something more difficult than rage. A choice. Show them to be utterly mistaken. She then returned to her job. She had never fallen, so what transpired over the next 4 years was not a return. The people who had disregarded her were unable to turn away, even if they tried to, because of the elevation's sharpness and persistence. The rest of the world finally caught up to what her family had always known during the 2025 season. In the Miami Open in March 2025, Alex takes the court against a 5-time Grand Slam winner who has dominated women's tennis for years. Not only does she win, but she also destroys her aggressive baseline plays and straight sets. So well done that commentators were at a loss for words. The thousands of Filipino supporters who had journeyed to Florida to watch Alex erupted like something that had been developing for years had finally surfaced when the last point landed, when she dropped her racket and yelled up at the sky. Nike increased their collaboration since sponsors had been observing. Based on her style of play, Babolat created a distinctive racket. Her image served as the focal point of national advertising started by the Bank of the Philippine Islands. However, what was happening to the background figures was more revealing than any specific transaction. On the days Alex competed, WTA match television viewership in Southeast Asia quadrupled. Items bearing her name sold out in a matter of hours. The group that Titan Sports had previously discreetly written off as not strategic enough had grown to be the tennis industry's fastest-growing consumer base, and they were spending their money everywhere but with the company that had rejected their icon. June 2025, Eastbourne. Alex makes it to her first WTA Tour final. The first Filipina to accomplish this. In a close final match, she loses to Daria Kasatkina, but no one in attendance that day gave the defeat any thought. They were observing the formation of something. Next was Wimbledon. Even when she loses against the reigning champion in the opening round, it's not a scoreline that goes viral worldwide. It's an add-on. Nike had made her a personalized hair tie in the shape of the Philippines' national flower, Sampita flowers. Replicas sell out before producers can even keep up with demand because of that minor feature, that intentional tribute to her origins, which is photographed from every angle and picked up by sources worldwide. Guadalajara, September 2025. Alex becomes the first Filipina to win a WTA Challenger level title when she wins the WTA 125 singles tournament. The career prize money surpasses $1 million. Rankings rise to the top 30. Additionally, something akin to panic is subtly spreading throughout Titan Sports' Southeast Asian division. Years later, internal emails came to light, depicting a marketing department seeing its market dominance slowly erode. Nearly no interaction was produced by their regional ambassadors, the athletes they had signed in place of Alex. Campaign after campaign failed. Alex used Babolat's racket, which was now the most popular type in the area. Georgina Camus, a Filipino artist, created a limited edition Nike jersey that sold out in just 11 minutes. 11. In the meantime, Titan Sports was unable to distribute merchandise in the markets they had previously dismissed as unworthy of investment. They were now permanently barred from 40% of the anticipated expansion in Asian tennis equipment sales. The questions that kept coming up in business meetings turned into a recurring horror tale. How can we resolve this? They came up with a bold, almost insane, solution. In February 2026, Richard Ashford, the new CEO of Titan Sports, takes a plane to Abu Dhabi, where Alex is participating in the Mubala Open. He watches from an opulent box as thousands of Filipino admirers who have come from all around the world to see her perform turn a formal WTA setting into a place where she feels at home. It's visceral energy. Ashford doesn't use agents or official channels after winning the quarterfinals. With champagne in hand, he enters the players' lounge and makes an introduction. Weary from the competition and preoccupied with getting better, Alex consents to listen to him. He walks across the table with a deal worth $300 million over 10 years, or $30 million a year. Numbers that would rank her among the highest-paid tennis players worldwide. It appears to be vindication on paper. However, Alex's agent, Maria Gonzalez, does not smile when she begins reading the exact terms. It doesn't change at all, which is a sort of response in and of itself. Exclusive equipment rights, full image licensing, quarterly corporate appearances, creative control over her social media content, and the power to choose which competitions she participated based on their marketing schedule rather than her competitive strategy were all demands made by Titan Sports. It was a huge sum of money. Her career was the price. Then Ashford had the audacity to say, while maintaining a straight face, that he had always thought she had potential, that the earlier rejection had just been a matter of timing, and that their earlier chat had been the result of their deliberate patience. The gaslighting was incredible. A contemptuous email he had sent to a 16-year-old who had just requested equitable treatment was being rewritten as some sort of long-term, strategic game. When the negotiations were reported by the Filipino media, the nation erupted. Hasty celebration of headlines. Alex's uncle, basketball legend Eala Eala, made a subtle but direct public statement. Examine the fine print. If money takes away your freedom, it is worthless. Sensing that they were losing the story, Titan Sports disclosed the negotiation statistics to business press sources, presenting themselves as kind donors giving a worthy athlete a historic opportunity. The frame was made up. Alex's profits in 2025 had already exceeded $650,000 in prize money alone, with significant additional revenue from current sponsorships. She wasn't an athlete in need of rescue. They needed her far more than she needed their billions, and she was rising on her own terms. From tournament to tournament, Ashford trailed behind her. Indian Wells after Dubai. The perseverance went beyond what felt more like pressure than recruitment. Alex requested 72 hours to make a decision. The Philippines seemed to hold its breath for 3 days. 3 days of comment sections, commentators, and columnists discussing what was the best decision. Then, on March 15, 2026, there was a news conference in Indian Wells, California, with cameras everywhere. Everyone in the room thought she was announcing a partnership. Instead, she made an announcement that would reverberate throughout the sports industry for a generation. Her voice remained unwavering. She told them that Titan Sports told her she wasn't worth investing in fairly 4 years ago, when she had recently won the U.S. Open Girls Singles Championship. With terms intended to control her entire career, they offered $60,000 annually. Her family received a form rejection email when they requested respect. She had defeated Grand Slam winners, advanced to the WTA finals, and was now in the top 30. She was now valued at $300 million. However, she was not sponsored by the contract. It bought her. It converted her to a commercial asset dressed up in historic numbers, determined her schedule, and permanently controlled her image. She hesitated. Everything in the room was motionless. She claimed that she had overcome too many obstacles, worked too hard, and risen too far to give anything up for any amount of money. Her career belonged to the Philippines, to her, and to all those who had supported her despite the suit's lack of faith. The $300 million might remain with Titan Sports. According to reports, Richard Ashford, who was observing from headquarters, punched his laptop. As investors realized the scope of the PR disaster, Titan Sports shares fell in a matter of hours. Respect Alex